All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. I'm Rick Kraus, and I manage the intern and outreach programs here at Scripps Research, including SURF. And before I go into the specifics of the program, I want to take a moment to tell you a little bit about Scripps as a whole, for those of you who might be a little less familiar with us. We are a research-intensive institute ranked as one of the top 5 biomedical institutes in the world by Nature Index. And a distinction that I want to draw here is that you might not be aware of is that we do not have an undergraduate program because we're not a university. So this is a unique opportunity for you to participate in academic research in an environment where science comes first. And even though we are not a university, we do have an accredited doctoral program. And in addition to the departments listed here, we have 2 translational institutes that are leaders in genomics, digital medicine, drug discovery, and development. And I mention our graduate school not just because it's our office that houses the Summer Undergraduate Research Fellowship, but also because we hope you consider pursuing your PhD with us. But of course, that's after SURF. So let's talk about this program structure. And this is largely what you might expect from an REU or SURF program. The primary component, the core tenet, is full-time immersive laboratory research. We provide nearby off-campus housing, and there are weekly professional development workshops that happen over lunch that consist of career panels, seminars on applying to graduate school, science communication training, and more. We also match you with a mentor from outside of your lab who provides you with additional guidance and support. Program leadership reserves time to individually check in with interns periodically. There are also tours of local biotech companies and institutes, as well as inter-institute mixers. And we also make sure that there's time reserved for you to have fun through either organized team building activities or just on your own exploring America's finest city, which is San Diego. And this all culminates in our Summer Intern Symposium, where we get to celebrate your accomplishments from the summer as you share a poster highlighting your research with not just your lab mates, but also family and friends that you might want to invite. The application materials are pretty standard, and hopefully you've already had a chance to peruse those. The one thing I'll mention now, as well as a little bit later, is that they're all due on February 1st, including those letters of recommendation. So you can request the recommendations to be submitted before your application is finalized. So we highly recommend you doing that early to give your recommenders enough time to do so. Some key dates that I want to call out here. Again, applications are due on February 1st, and we're going to do a quick turnaround on the review of applications with the review committee, and after which we'll send out invitations for Zoom interviews around the week of the February 23rd. And then we expect to be able to get you admissions decisions by mid-March. And once we have the team solidified, we'll do a virtual pre-program check-in with the participants so that we can make sure that everyone's on the same page. And then the internship starts in real form on June 1st through August 7th, which is 10 weeks. And the first day is just orientation. So you'll be with us, making sure that you're onboarded and that you're all set up for success. And then we are tentatively planning on August 6th, so the Thursday of the last week of the program, for the Summer Intern Symposium, but that timing is TBD. And that's basically it. I just wanted to run you through some of the high-level ideas about the program before we turn it over to some alumni that you can hear from. So yeah, are there any questions, concerns, ideas, or thoughts about the program overall or broadly?
Rick, I have 2 quick questions submitted related to just general information if we want to address those. Both kind of similar, mostly regarding students applying from the UC schools, regarding the start dates. If you want to mention a little bit about that.
Yes, great question. So unfortunately, we don't have any flexibility with start dates this year. So we do need you to be able to commit to the entirety of the program. We're not going to have staggered start dates and end dates this year. So that means for students on the quarter system, this is not going to be a good fit for you unless you have flexibility on your end date.
Thank you. And two general questions. One, is the program open to international students?
It's open to international students if you attend a U.S. School. So if you're international student and you are abroad already, you're not eligible to use.
And last journal questions, can you still get into the program if you have already graduated?
You have to be currently enrolled in a undergraduate institution. So if you're transferring between like a community college and a four-year institute, then you're eligible to apply, but you can't have already received a bachelor's degree to participate.
Thank you. And we still have a few coming in, but we can sort of move on with the panelists and address this in a little.
Right on. Sounds good. So we're going to hear from Meredith first, who is one of our alumni from a couple of years ago.
Hi, everyone. My name is Meredith. I was part of the 2023 SURF program, and I'm super, super excited to tell you guys all about my incredible experience there. But first, a little bit about me. I'm from the Bay Area, but I went to school at Michigan where I studied biochemistry. During undergrad, I worked in David Sherman's lab, and I studied the unique chemical profiles of microorganisms from extreme environments, including from the boiling river of Peru and rattlesnake venom. So really unique. This picture on the top right here actually is from a fieldwork expedition I went on in Arizona to collect venom, but don't worry, the snake is not venomous. And then this picture on the bottom left of this petri dish is one of the previously uncharacterized bacterial strains that we discovered from the boiling river. Beyond research, some of my hobbies include water polo. I played club at Michigan, swimming, making kombucha, which you can see here in the bottom right, and then just generally going on adventures. So this is a heavy slide, I know, but this is my poster from the SURF program in 2023. While at Scripps, I had the incredible opportunity of synthesizing 8 small molecule probes and then testing their activity in live cells with a method called activity-based protein profiling, which basically is a way to globally map druggable sites in the proteome. So this was an incredible experience that gave me a taste of organic synthesis and chemical biology and how to leverage chemical tools to reveal biological systems. And it was just an amazing thing that shifted my whole worldview and scientific interests. So I came into Scripps basically with zero chemical synthesis and chemical proteomics experience, but I left the summer feeling like very confident in my ability to navigate both of these fields. This picture is a photo of me and my mentor's extremely messy fume hood in the synthesis lab, but I kind of liked it. I don't know. I show this photo to so many people because it's just funny to me. And then this photo in the top right is me and my mentor in the chemical proteomics lab. Broadly, like I mentioned earlier, the project really showed me the power of creative chemistry and chemical tools to uncover biological complexity, and it really shifted my scientific interest moving forward. And then my project was a unique collaboration between 2 labs, which happens all the time at Scripps, and it showed me how the Institute is a really unique place where frequent lab-to-lab collaboration can really accelerate discovery. So some advice is you can learn a ton from this program if you make the most of it. So work really, really hard. It's temporary. You can learn a ton. Talk to people, talk to grad students and PIs, and go to events. Like really milk all you can from this program. It's also a great opportunity and time to think about if grad school is right for you. And if you already know that it's right for you, kind of thinking about what sorts of environments and projects you're interested in. So you can do that by networking. And another point is just build and leverage your network. And this is not limited to PIs and postdocs and people who are older than you. I'm really talking about like the friends that you'll meet through this program. So this photo on the bottom right is a recent photo of me and 2 friends from the SURF program taken at Berkeley. One of them is a PhD student there right now, and the other one works at UCSF. So I always see them when I go home to the Bay, and they've helped me a lot, like with grad school applications and stuff. And lastly, maximize your time in San Diego. Like Rick said, it's arguably the best city in the entire country. I got scuba certified just like as a random side quest while I was there, and I don't know, no better place to do that than San Diego. So I really don't have enough good things to say about this program. It really shaped my scientific trajectory. It led me to my current role at Areta Bioworks in Cambridge, where I work on the chemical proteomics team. It gave me clarity about pursuing chemical biology in graduate school. It offered a network of friends and colleagues who I speak with regularly, including my two PIs at Scripps. It also made me a more confident and mature and well-rounded scientist, and it kind of gave me this rigor and intellect and overall broader perspective that I was able to apply to my projects at Michigan. And then it made me eager to return to Scripps for grad school. So I'm applying right now. Scripps is my top choice. So wish me luck. Yeah, and the program is great. And I'd be happy to take questions at the end, but now we're going to turn it to another alumni, Emiliano, for his talk.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you, Rick, for inviting me. Really, it's a great honor. And hello, everyone. My name is Emiliano Lara. I'm a senior at UC Berkeley studying neuroscience. I'm a first-gen college student, originally from San Diego. And here at Berkeley, I'm interested in neurobiology and biophysics. Outside school, I just enjoy hiking, solving puzzles, and visiting theme parks. Really, anything that either challenges how I think or just lets me distress for a bit. And last summer, I was very fortunate to be part of the SURF 2025 cohort at Scripps Research. So today I just want to share with you what that looked like for me and hopefully encourage some of you to apply. So I would like to start briefly talking about my research. So I was very fortunate to be part of the Lursen lab with Dr. Luke Lursen, and I worked on something called high throughput screening. So if you've never heard of it, high throughput screening, it's basically a way scientists can detect molecules really quick by using robotics and automated systems. So we can discover compounds that can eventually lead to new medicines. And I was very fortunate to work in two projects. The first in cancer immunotherapy, where we were looking for compounds in combination to activate your innate immune system, especially the CGA, a pathway called the CGA-STING pathway, to better fight back against cancerous tumors in a more effective and reliable way. And the other part was the remyelination in multiple sclerosis, which we were looking for compounds to help restore your myelin sheets around your neurons, because your neurons have this protective coating around their axon that help them communicate with each other, which gets affected during MS. So we were looking for compounds also in combination to not only stop this generation, but also restore myelin. And we used a bunch of techniques for that. We used from cell culture to high content imaging to chemoinformatics and really many, many more. And again, I know this is a very complicated slide, but this is just the poster that we worked through this summer, highlighting the work. And it was actually my very first time putting together a poster of this magnitude, which was very exciting. But what was really interesting about this research is that we weren't really inventing or creating compounds from scratch. We were just repurposing existing drugs. So that meant that everything that we found promisable could reach patients much, much faster. And it was also the first time I felt like I was doing real research with real potential to make an impact, which also was very, very exciting. These are just a few pictures of what my day-to-day looked like. On the left, you have the Echo robot, which is a robot that I used almost all the time because it helps us dispense hundreds of compounds once using with insane precision into plates. And it made everything with it actually possible. In the picture in the middle, it's my workspace. The bench on the right, that's where most of the hands-on work happened. So we would play the compounds using the echo, and then we would take it to the bench and then plate cells and see how they reacted. And one of the best parts of my lab and one of the best parts in San Diego is the views, and it was amazing. Really the finest city in America. And that was my view from my lab window, looking at the Pacific Ocean. So it made really coming into the lab never feel like a chore. So looking back at it, I learned a lot. Trips. I really learned how to embrace uncertainty and stay curious even when experiments failed. I mean, especially when experiments fail, because some of the time things are not going to work the way you expected. But that's honestly what makes science so great. And every day just felt new and different for me. And because of that, like I mentioned, I developed very strong skills in both wet lab and computational work, from cell culture to cheminformatics to coding to everything in between. I mean, Scripps is truly a very interdisciplinary and collaborative space that you can just expose yourself to all kinds of science. And you're never alone throughout the whole process. I built incredible relationships with my PI, with my mentors. They're incredible scientists that I still continue to talk to even today, and they continue to help me. Really, the effect Scripps had on me didn't end just in the summer. It sort of really reinforced my passion for research that I this day continue to do research in neuroscience here at Berkeley in the Cognition and Action Lab. And because this exact same work that I did at Scripps, I'll be presenting at the Yale Undergraduate Research Conference next year. So Scripps truly made me self-aware that this is truly the path I want to follow. And I would like to end up this brief presentation with a picture of my amazing cohort, which reflecting back on it, I remember the first day we all met. We were all very excited, but also very nervous and scared because we didn't know what to expect for the program. So I would like to share with you three things that I wish I knew before coming to Scripps is number one, expect to feel lost during your first days, and that's completely normal. I came in with Scripps with zero research experience, but what kept me going wasn't really knowledge. It was my curiosity and my willingness to learn at least a little bit every day. And number two is talk to people. Be prepared to be busy, yes, but also take time for yourself. I mean, like Rick said, you have opportunities to hang out with your cohort, hang out with your people in your lab. I mean, we went to the beach almost every weekend, and we would go and eat dinner after lab. So really make time for yourself and the other people, and that connects to my and third point, which is get to know your cohort and your mentors as real people. I mean, everyone at Scripps is super smart, but there are also people just like you with their own stories, with their own struggles. So if you are kind, open, and if you take this advice, I think the learning curve of this program just gets so much easier. And overall, just Scripps really changed my path in science. And I just gained so much out of this program that I'm really grateful for it. And I hope some of you take a chance on it because it can truly change your entire.
Thank you, Emiliano and Meredith. And we can ask them both to come back on camera to maybe answer any questions that the audience has for specifically the alumni, and then we can come back to overall program questions after that. I saw one at the top about what was the most valuable insight that you gained from the program. So maybe I know that you both sort of talked about things that you learned and things that you took away from it, but is there one thing that really encapsulates the biggest takeaway that you had, if there is one?
Again, I can go first. I mean, I think the biggest thing that I learned from this program, or something I truly carry with me every day, is how to think like a scientist. Like I said, I came in with zero research experience, but just being submerged and immersed in science every day, all day, just maybe just learn how to think like a scientist in a way, not like how to do experiments, but also how to navigate challenges. And that's something I still carry in my classes, in my daily life, and it truly changes your perspective. And it just it's great that if you do something that you like, it's great to learn. And like I said, the learning curve just becomes so much easier. But you just learn to confront obstacles in a very different way, even before the program.
Yeah, I also agree with everything that Emiliano said. It definitely taught me how to think like a scientist. And I think another element I wanted to highlight again was the collaborative nature and like thinking like an interdisciplinary scientist. Like how can we apply method A to experiment B, or just like thinking more broadly about that. And then a third thing, science aside, is just how to network and build connections. And I really liked Emiliana's point about being kind and just being curious and open. I think a lot of students, when they think of networking, they're just like, okay, how can I go to these networking events and just talk to people? And I'm networking. But networking to me is like the friends that you meet along the way, the people you meet in the labs, the people you talk to like at Trader Joe's when you're in line buying your sweet potatoes or whatever. Like you never know when these people are going to come back around. And for me, the surf program and my network that I built there was so pivotal. And I'm really glad that I leveraged that help because it's how I got where I am today. So networking is not limited to networking events. Just be a good person, be curious, talk to as many people as possible, and it'll get you far.
Great. It looks like someone has their hand raised to ask a question. So you should be able to unmute to ask your question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a question for the alumni. Number one, I wanted to ask, like, what was the greatest challenge in your research? Did you think, what were like the roadblocks, and did that lead to new ideas and new roads and routes in your research? Did that change your trajectory on that, or did that lead to any type of new exploration in research? Like, what was the greatest roadblock for you that led to maybe a change in how your research was done in the research process?
This is a great question. I can start. Well, for context, I don't know if any of you guys have experience with chemical organic synthesis, but it is definitely a lot more beautiful on paper than it is in the lab. Like for me, me and my mentor were synthesizing probes that had never been made before. So like I know my poster is all wrapped up beautifully, but it was really, really challenging. And we definitely did come across a lot of roadblocks. This might be a little bit more specific than your question was getting at, but in the end, we were trying to install the last part of our molecule, which is like this phosphorus 5 group, and we wanted to use one particular method that it wasn't working. So, I mean, my mentor, again, like I didn't have a lot of synthesis experience before, and I was still building my toolbox for how to think like a chemist. So, my mentor like kind of guided me through the thought process, and we had to switch to a whole new method for installing this group. But somehow we still got it done. And as for how it changed the like trajectory of the project, I mean, I think it really just showed me how to pivot when things don't work. I mean, luckily we were still able to finish the probes, but kind of like thinking about alternative routes to get to the same step.
Okay. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, I can also very quickly add on that. I mean, in my experience, when I previously mentioned, I came in with zero research experience, so I was thrown into this research environment all of a sudden. And my lab, the Larson lab, was very heavy in chemistry, which I had very little background on. And but that honestly, that just made the experience so much more fun. And like I mentioned, I worked in two projects, the screening, and we had to test 4,000 compounds for each campaign. So in 8,000 compounds in total. So one of the creative ways that we had to do is how to figure it out. How are we going to test 4,000 compounds for each project in 10 weeks? And that just led to a lot of imagination and creativity. Like how are we going to play the cells so we can run experiments the next day, but also play it at the same time and just keep moving forward. And with no background in research and no background in chemistry, it was definitely challenging. But again, I think that just leads to creative ways to just solve those problems. And it just changes the entire project. We were able to finish everything and it came out great, but sometimes it didn't. But so I think it's just a matter of your mentors, like Meredith said, your mentors are helping you throughout the whole time. And you just brainstorm and see where just your creative ideas really lead you to. That's one of the funnest parts ever.
Thank you for answering that. Science is just my entire life. I've loved science since I was like 3, 4 years old. So this opportunity right here, and then talking to alumni who've already been in the process, who've done the research, who've been in the fire, who've done the trials, is like it's really inspiring to have people that I can talk to about your experiences and really use that to expand my horizon on science and biological sciences, which I'm getting into. So it's just really good to have people who've already been in that field, whether it's with chemistry or biological sciences, to really get into that. And I'm grateful for you guys to give me the knowledge on how to better myself.
Totally. It's a
You.
pleasure.
And one of the things I want to underscore here for what they shared about the most helpful insights that they took away is, I think what's specific to a useful and optimal SURF program is that it's providing an opportunity for you to fail in a controlled way, because that's what a lot of science is just constantly making mistakes and learning from them and trying to see how you can approach a problem more tactfully. And so students are going to do best whenever they feel comfortable with admitting that they don't know things and learning as much as they can. So Meredith and Emiliano are two really stellar examples of that, and that's why they were able to take so much away from the program. We're going to move on to some other questions. And just as a reminder, these are questions for anyone that has questions about, for specifically the alumni, and then we can circle back to overall programmatic questions. So I think I saw maybe Caleb who had a question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so just for the alumni, I was wondering, how competitive would you say your application profile was? What experience did you have prior to applying to the program? And then additionally, how many programs did you apply to on top of Scripps?
Yeah, I can start answering that. That's a great question. So maybe our Meredith and my experience are a bit different, but in my experience, I didn't have, like I said, no research experience. I didn't have a perfect GPA, and I didn't focus on applying just to a bunch of programs all at once. I did my research and look at the programs that really matched and aligned with what I wanted to do that summer. And one of the things at Scripps is I wanted to challenge myself doing something new that I've never done before. And like research and science, and a science enthusiasm and curiosity just doesn't come in the form of research. It comes in the form of a lot of things: your extracurricular activities, your passions, your things that you even do outside school. And I made sure to highlight that and say clearly why I wanted to do this program and what did I wanted to get out of it. I think that's the most important part, not just having tons of research and having a perfect GPA. Just make sure you have a clear answer on why do you want to do research, even if you have never tried it before. That was my personal experience. Meredith has another great experience.
Yeah, my experience was a little bit unique because I actually knew someone at Scripps and I was already planning on working in their labs outside of the program, but I applied to the program separately just to engage in that community further. And I think it was completely separate. And I want to say, as an undergrad, I don't think anyone expects you to have a 3-page CV with publications. There's just no way. I was involved with research, but like I said, I had no synthesis experience. My research was very exploratory. I was going and catching snakes, some things that were entirely unrelated. But I think in my essays and in my application, I really just wanted to convey my enthusiasm and my curiosity for learning, which I still carry with me to this day. I think that is the most important beyond the SURF program. If you just open to learning all the time, asking questions, that I think that really is the highlight or one of the most important parts of being a successful scientist. And it's going to get you far when you apply to these programs, SURF and other programs outside of SURF.
Nice. Are there any other questions that have popped out to you, Paolo, maybe about for the alumni specifically?
There's a couple of questions related to letters of recommendations, but if you could, provide maybe some feedback about who you reached out to for those letters of recommendations, any advice for applicants on that?
Cool. And I saw a question related to that one about if you don't have any research experience, how are you going to get a letter of recommendation about your ability to succeed in the internship? It's a great question, and many people have touched on like, does it have to be a science professor that's giving it to you? It doesn't have to be a science professor that gives you a letter of recommendation, but usually they are best positioned to be able to talk to your ability to excel in it because they know what it looks like for a student who hasn't yet conducted research to be ready to do an internship. And that's because they're used to seeing students who come through their class that are diligent and resilient, and they are curious, and they're willing to pick themselves back up whenever their experiments don't work over and over again. So any sort of mentor, former professor, or academic counselor, anyone who is familiar with your background and your career aspirations is most likely going to be able to comment on this for you. And it's most helpful for us, for people on the admissions committee, to not just be told that, yes, this person's going to do well, but if they can share some of that through an anecdote about maybe a way in which you overcome some obstacles, or not just that you took their class and you got an A, because there's any number of really smart people who are applying to this program. What we really want are people who are passionate about science and want to meaningfully engage in research, but maybe not have had a chance to engage in it further. So I'll talk about that stuff and questions around ideal candidates later, but I think this is a really difficult question for people. So I'd love to hear, Meredith and Emiliano, your approach. How did you talk to potential recommenders about doing this? I always felt nervous as an undergraduate asking for this. It feels like you're asking for too much, and it's like they're going to say no. But how have you done it? And what did you find that was successful? And because both of you had strong letters.
I could start. First off, I want to say that I know it's scary sometimes to ask for letters of recommendation, but remember that these people have been in the business for a long time. And I think like it's part of what they love about being a professor, being a mentor. Like they're meant to write these letters. So don't be scared to ask. It's just a normal part of the process, and I'm sure like they'd love to help with that. I think I had my undergraduate PI, David Sherman, write me a letter because he was able to speak on my skills and my experience as a researcher. I understand a lot of people who aren't involved in research don't have this situation. So definitely use your leverage your professors. I would recommend just like getting familiar with your professors, like talking to them, going to office hours and all that. I know everyone always says that. Also, for a previous program I applied to, so I was a surf student after junior year, but I also applied to programs after sophomore year when I had very minimal research experience. And I think I one time used my the professor for a lab course because maybe they could tie in a little bit more of your skills related to lab. But don't be worried if you don't have like 5 PIs, to write you these letters. Just I would recommend going to your science professors, talking with them again, showing that curiosity, showing that excitement. They're gonna be excited to write you a letter.
Yeah, I think like Meredith said, there's different people who are willing to help you because they've been through the process and they've experienced similar stuff. Like I said, I'm a transfer student from San Diego, so one of my letters of rec was actually from a professor at my community college, my chemistry professor, who I used to talk to a lot. I would just go to his office hours and we would talk about anything. So he truly knew me outside the classroom setting. And once I transferred to Berkeley, I know some of you might be in big schools where it's really difficult to reach out to professors because they're always busy or they're always doing research. So actually, I reached out to my GSI for one of my neuroscience classes, and they were very helpful. They were like very enthusiastic about me applying to stuff. So you can reach out to your TSI. I mean, if you enjoyed a class so much, you can reach out to them and just talk about your interests and your passions. And I'm interested in applying to this programs. Could you kindly provide me a letter of rec? And most of the time, they will say yes because they are PhD students who have been through the process of applying to grad school, applying to undergrad. So especially in a big school at Berkeley, it's sometimes difficult to have a letter of rec from a professor because they're busy most of the time. Not impossible, but people might just be shy or busy or whatever. So a great resource is just talking to your GSI, to your TA, and just talking about your interests, talking about yourself. Mm, It worked out for me. So I think you also should be fine. Just show your interest and show your passion and curiosity.
Nice. Thank you. I'm going to do some rapid fire of some of these quicker questions. There is not a hard and fast rule for GPA requirements, but we are looking for at least a 3.0, though that's not a very firm cutoff. We will consider students with less than that, but that's just sort of a range of what we're looking for. We do prioritize local students because we have partnerships with some of the community colleges in the area, so we are paying special attention to them. For priorities for admission, we are looking for students who do not have prior research experience, as well as those who are coming from primarily undergraduate institutions or those with limited research opportunities at their institutions, and students who are first in family to go to college, and just expanding participation broadly is what we're looking for in terms of priorities. For cohort numbers, this is a little bit up in the air in terms of we're up for renewal for our NSF RU award. But regardless of that, the institution is fully committed to having a SURF program, whether or not the award is renewed. So we're looking for no less than 12 people to be in the cohort, but anywhere up to 16 or 20 perhaps. And this runs in conjunction with another internship program that we work closely with, as well as a high school internship. So we do have some space constraints in terms of what is a maximal operating cohort where it doesn't feel like you get lost in it. Housing options. So we talked about this earlier, but off-campus nearby housing is provided during the program. And creating a poster, it is based off of work that you are conducting in the laboratory, but this is done with your mentor in the lab, and we have sessions on creating your poster. You get feedback on the poster from your peers, as well as us and other graduate student mentors. And then you get a chance to practice presenting as well. So you're not on your own with it, because presenting or creating a poster is pretty challenging. For assigning to labs, you're going to be asked to rank your preferences on labs, but that doesn't mean that these labs are necessarily going to be able to take students that year. So we want you to talk about your research interests in your personal statement, but be flexible to the idea that you may not be matched with your first, second, or third choice in labs. But what's more important with some of these research experiences for undergraduates is less about the specific lab you're in, but more about you getting an authentic, immersive research experience, because you don't have to do just this type of research from, your first experience all the way to becoming a PI or going into industry. You're going to have transferable skills no matter what. So we work closely with the labs to make sure that there's going to be a good fit and the capacity in their lab to give you useful mentorship. But so that's a constant evolving conversation to where we will ask you, hi, maybe we are looking to match you with your first two labs, but do you have any others that you can look at and see that might have research that interests you? But we're not going to place you in a lab. For instance, if you say you're interested in neuroscience, well, actually now you're going to do structural computational biology. Have fun. We're going to make sure that it's as close as alignment as possible. I think that is a lot of these. We do take younger students as well, including first years. So there's not a specific cutoff, though you can't have already graduated. So we mentioned that already. So seniors, not going to be eligible for it. There's not a limit on pages or characters for the essay questions. Roughly, we expect it to be about 2 pages, but we don't want to be overly prescriptive. That's why the prompt is also a little bit overarching and a laundry list, because we just want you to tell us why you're passionate about research, but we don't want it to specifically fit into 1 or 2 categories. I think that's a lot of the quick questions. Preference based on graduation date. We want a good mix of younger and more senior students, so we evaluate everyone equally. And sometimes we will give special consideration to the fact that if you're a junior, maybe this is your last chance to get a research experience before you're applying to graduate school. For the question about certain radius within the institute, do you have to stay in the housing provided? That's on a case-by-case basis. We can talk about that. In particular, if you attend one of the local community colleges, we might have some parallel processes for you to be involved that don't require you to live on campus. All right. So I think that handled quite a few of these questions that I can answer quickly. Some of the more specific ones, especially about bachelor's degrees in different countries or H-4 visas, I'll get you some specific answers on those and follow up via email. All right. Are there any other questions specifically for the alumni? And I saw a question from Emiliano about the spring quarter at Berkeley and beginning of the SURF program, but Emiliano, there wasn't a conflict for you, right? You had already ended the class.
There wasn't personally a conflict for me because Berkeley is, I think, one of only two UCs who was in the semester system, so it's semester based. So the schedule were kind of like the dates lined up perfectly. So I personally didn't have any trouble with that. But I can imagine other UCs might have. UC is on the semester based system. Well,
Perfect.
Berkeley at least.
Right. All right. So I'll answer some more of these other specific program questions, some more rapid fire ones. We often accept out-of-state applicants, so that's very common. We have students from all across the country. I'll provide my email in the chat, as well as you'll find it on our email address or on our website for SURF. So you can find all the information there, and there's a shared email account that goes in. That's my email address in the chat. There's a question for Meredith about Scripps working out as a graduate program. You're in the process of applying here, Meredith, right?
Yeah, so I'm not into any schools yet. My applications are due December 1st, so I can't speak to that. But if you have any questions about applying, feel free to ask.
And there are some questions here about how the process of starting research went that I thought was pretty interesting. Do the PIs help you, and do they teach the steps to do certain processes? And I want to make it clear where for SURF programs, you are going to interact with your PI for sure, but your day-to-day mentorship is most likely going to be coming from a graduate student or postdoc in the lab. PIs are managing the training of a number of people in their lab, as well as other departmental obligations. And so you're usually going to have dedicated time to check in with them, as well as, just other face-to-face time during lab meetings. But you're mostly going to be learning from a graduate student or postdoc in a lab. So a little bit more of a near peer mentorship because they have more time to dedicate to one-on-one mentorship. Does that track with your experiences, Meredith and Emiliano?
Yeah, absolutely. You're definitely not expected to walk into Scripps and be like, hey, like, here we go, day one, all by yourself. You work extremely closely with either a grad student or a postdoc, as Rick said. You're really like working with them on everything. They're your primary mentors. So yeah, you're not expected to like handle everything on your own, but I will say you probably will get the chance to learn how to navigate things independently. But yeah, there's guidance, and you'll interact with your PI. It depends on the PI and how busy he or she is, but you'll interact with them like a few times during the summer too.
Yeah, just adding on that, I think Meredith is correct that most of your time is going to be with your mentors, who are either PhD student postdocs, but not that you're not going to ever see your PI. I personally worked every day with my two mentors, but also had weekly meetings with my PI to guide research or asking questions. So you'll definitely, I mean, during their lab, you're bound to see them and talk to them. And I would suggest to reach out to them because they're very open most of the time to help you if you have any questions or guide you through the research. But again, just take advantage of your mentors who are going to help you throughout the whole journey. But meetings with my PI weekly, and that really helped a lot.
Great. So one thing I want to circle back to answer a little bit more thoroughly is about what are we looking for in an ideal candidate. So first and foremost, we're looking for students who are eager and serious about scientific research. and are ready for an intensive, rigorous internship, this is hard. It might be one of the hardest things you've had to do. It's not like your undergraduate courses where you're memorizing things and taking exams. This is where you are pushing the frontier of scientific understanding forward. So there's going to be a ton that you don't know. And your typical way of learning, if you were really good at taking tests or answering exam written questions, it may feel like you're completely out of your depth because you are just not getting, you don't have clear-cut answers to some of these questions. And so a lot of it is exploratory, and you're going to be learning tons on the fly. But being ready for this internship doesn't mean that you need to have previous research experience, as we talked about earlier. And we do really want to give students that first foot in the door, especially those that have limited research opportunities at their home institutions. So we do especially look for students that don't have previous research experience, but we aren't weighing that as a make or break for a student. So if you have research experience, then talk to us about why you want to come to Scripps for that next step. How is this going to advance your pursuit of research? Is it a slightly different field? Is it in a different caliber of institution in terms of research intensive versus maybe an R2 or non-R research institution? And ways to stand out in your personal statement is that you need to make it exceedingly obvious to us that you're a thoughtful, diligent, resilient student who can communicate their research interests and why they want to come to Scripps specifically. Don't just tell us these attributes. You need to show us through either glimpses in your past experiences and your future goals. And this is going to be important for your mentors to know what you're talking about in your personal statement and your academic history, so that they can reinforce these through their own takes as their mentors for you. So it's difficult to say this is what a strong candidate looks like, because we're trying to create a strong breadth of applicants who are going to come together to coalesce, because there is not just one type of scientist or one type of researcher. We wanted to span the gamut of people who are applying to it. So if you can communicate that you are serious about research, and that even if you don't know exactly what you want to do research wise, why is it that you think you want to take part in research over the summer? And how have you demonstrated that you are interested in doing so, even if you haven't had an interest in this in the past, or you haven't had an experience so far? You have a person, Cynthia, with a question. You should be able to unmute to ask your question, Cynthia. All right, that might have been a mistake, and we have another.
Yeah, hi, my name is Danny Shomi. I'm a junior at UMBC, and I just had a question about, could we email like labs and PIs, for kind of like their info and their take on the lab, or would you prefer us hold off until you, place us into a lab?
We prefer you didn't reach out to them, because
Okay.
it creates a lot of cross channels and mixed signals to where they think that they're getting, like they're already getting a lot of inquiries about internships throughout outside of programs. People at Scripps are familiar with the CERT program, and they know if we have a student, a potential match, that we'll reach out to them. We can't tell you to fully prohibit you from doing that, especially if you just want to learn about their research. But it's not going to improve your chances of getting into the program if you ask them to put in a good word for you or something. We have a process to where if you've indicated research interests in a certain lab member, you're not going to be evaluated by someone who's in that lab.
Thank you.
Application. But good question. Thank you for asking that. All right. I'm gonna look through some more of these questions that are submitted, and I appreciate everyone's thoughtfulness and the questions that they're asking. For these letters of recommendation, if you need to submit it from someone who was a teacher of yours in high school, who you think can speak to your experiences, or a doctor that you shadowed, you certainly can. But try your best to get somebody who is actively mentoring you. whether that's a professor, maybe it's a professor that you're not as familiar with, but if someone from the recent past can talk to you as a more holistic candidate, then that is totally acceptable. For a doctor that you shadowed, if you have had extensive experience with them and they know that you want to get into research, sure, but but it needs to be really obvious that they have grounds to talk about why you would be good for this internship program. You can always apply multiple times if you don't get in the first time. And international students, again, you are able to apply so long as you attend a U.S. institution already. We aren't prioritizing domestic over international. We look at students in the same pool, and if you get pulled out and identified as a candidate and selected for a Zoom interview, then we just move on in that admissions process. For the alumni, the interview process on Zoom is a recent addition. I don't know if they did one for you, Meredith, but I know we didn't have one last year in Miliano. Did you do any Zoom interviews, Meredith? Do you recall?
No, I didn't.
And this is going to be pretty straightforward. There's not going to be a lot to it. It'll be probably like 25 minutes or so. It'll just be us getting to know who you are off of paper, because people can sound really great on paper, especially with the advent of ChatGPT, for it to sound very eloquent. And we just want to make sure that you can back up what you're saying. We're not going to be quizzing you, but we do want to see some of that enthusiasm come through in a virtual face-to-face discussion as well. So this is just also sort of a check of personality fit in terms of, does it seem like you're going to be a team player and contribute to a positive experience within the cohort? To use vernacular that might be a little bit more common, somewhat of a vibe check, but also a chance for us to see how your passion shines through for research. Question about GPA, it's not a make or break. We want to see that you're able to handle the rigor of college coursework in addition to juggling other obligations, but it is necessary for you to have a strong GPA, or at least talk about why you may have taken a hit in your GPA early on and how you're working on improving that. But as 4.0 GPA is not sufficient to gain you admission. And there might be one more alumni question that is relevant. How much choice did you have in choosing specific areas and methods of research? Is it more assigned than just the type of lab? We do ask that the prospective primary mentors design your project ahead of time so that it's not all being figured out on the fly, though science is ever changing. It might turn out that actually that experiment doesn't work out at all, so you're gonna have to make it up on the fly and work together to create that. But there is a good degree of flexibility in terms of you communicating your interest to your mentors. And maybe there's a side project you can add on, or ways for you to dabble in other projects or research areas. But the goal of this experience is not for you to conduct a thesis level research project in 10 weeks. It's for you to get real hands-on experience in conducting full-time research to see if this is something that you want to pursue full-time, or to accentuate your experience. So it's less about the actual research project that you're working on and more about the ability to engage meaningfully in the scientific process. All right. Continuing to scroll in this Q&A, I appreciate all the thoughtful questions. Graduate students that mentor you can also write a letter of recommendation. It's pretty standard for a PI to co-sign that letter as well, just to show that the entire lab is behind this. There was a question about whether or not it looks bad or if it's to your detriment if the PI does not co-sign it. There will be some questions raised just inherently by the selection committee to say, why is it just the graduate student doing it? It's understood sometimes that PIs are really busy, or maybe you just didn't have that deep of a connection with your PI based on how big the lab was or how busy they are. It is a vote of confidence to see a cosign of a PI. It is not make or break if it's just a graduate student, but it does raise some questions to be transparent. A higher GPA doesn't hurt, but I'm not going to be quibbling over, well, there's a 3.6 versus a 3.8 GPA. GPAs are not necessarily great predictors of success in research. So that's why we want there to be a threshold, but beyond that, it doesn't particularly matter to me. Is there any advice you would give someone that is not confident with science and research? This is a good question maybe for the alumni to end on. So, Emiliano, you mentioned being nervous. I remember being extremely nervous and unsure of myself in my first research experiences. Do you have any thoughts or ways to suggest to people to put their best foot forward? One of the things we worked on in our first workshop was about how to ask questions and being confident in asking clarifying questions, and this idea of a hidden curriculum in research, and there's so much that you don't know, and just making it really explicit that people expect you don't know and they want you to ask questions. So something that I shared with our with our CERT participants last summer was make sure that everyone understands that you don't know things and they're excited by the fact that you want to learn. And some of the best ways to feel confident in asking questions is having sentence starters of helping to identify what it is you don't know about something and saying, I understand that action potentials propagate this way, but what I'm a little fuzzy on is X. And that's going to show that you've done a little bit of homework, but that you want to know more. Maybe closing final thought, Meredith and Emiliano, any thoughts on how to proceed whenever you are a little bit shakier or uncertain?
Yeah, I can start by answering that. I remember the first day I came into the lab, I was very, very excited, but also very, very nervous and scared because I didn't know I knew what research was, but I didn't think, all these thoughts of maybe research isn't for me, or what if I do bad, or what if I'm not good at research. But honestly, as long as you're very curious, passionate, and honest with your mentors, like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I would like to learn more about it. Like, they're gonna be very willing to explain to you the concepts, the science, the methods. I had to relearn pipetting. I had to learn immunology, chemistry, but honestly, that's just what makes this program and research overall so exciting and so fun, because it's like you're just challenging yourself every single day. And sometimes, like I said, things are not going to work the way you want them to work out. Sometimes my experiments failed, and sometimes I thought to myself, maybe I'm not good at this. But the next day, then the experiment will be a huge success. And it's like, oh, maybe I'm good at this. So it's just like a matter of perspective and thinking that it's just a learning process, and be honest, ask questions, a ton of them. I would ask tons of questions every single day, even about the most simple stuff that you think, oh, they're going to think I'm dumb for asking this question. There's no such thing as a dumb question. There's no such thing as being ashamed for asking something that you truly don't know, because that's just part of the process. And if you feel not confident in science, as long as you're here, that just shows that you're interested in doing something. You're interested in truly, and it's okay if research is not for you. I mean, you'll never know until you try. So, but I would suggest that just be confident and be curious and passionate about your work, and just be willing to learn at least a little bit every day. And that just makes the learning curve much, much easier.
All right, so we are at time. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Thank you again for taking the time to learn more about Scripps CERT program. Remember, February 1st, it is the date that everything is due. And I look forward to reviewing everyone's applications.